Thanks for tuning into the Hidden Tracks podcast. You can find us wherever you find podcasts or listen to music. When you have an opportunity, please give us a 5-star review, write a little note, tell us how we're doing. We really appreciate it. It helps us keep this thing going. If you want to reach out to us, you can find us at Facebook at Hidden Tracks. Instagram is at HiddenTracks99, and if you'd like to send in submissions or talk to us or give us any feedback about what we're doing, our email is myhiddentracks99@gmail. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show. What's up, everybody? I am very lucky to have this guy on the show today, Pat from the band The Decline out of Australia. So we are worlds apart, but being all connected because of one thing, and that is music, and it is good music, which is The Decline. So, Pat, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, how are you? How you going?
Good. It's a pleasure to have you here. We've been going back and forth. I'm glad to finally have you on the show and figured out our little difficulties. And now we're here about to talk about music and, you know, the stuff that binds us all from all around the world. We can all agree on a good song is a good song, and we can be a community around it. And I just want to first say thank you for creating your music that brought me to you, because without that, we wouldn't be talking today.
Well, no worries. And obviously, thank you for reaching out and having me on the show. This is going to be really cool. Excited.
Yeah. So a little bit about The Decline. I mean, you've been around since around 2005. You formed 2008, started being active with releasing music. And I mean, it's been a, steady journey forward and, little blips here and there because the world was in different places. But you started to release some new singles that are totally awesome. My first question is going to be like, how did this all come about, and what was your passion about music to get into it? Was this just something with friends and, hey, let's just form a band, or how did this all come about to keep The Decline, starting it and keeping it going?
Oh, okay. So I was a fairly musical child. Like, I played piano and stuff and was just always very interested in music. My mum plays guitar, and she sings at church and has a guitar. So I guess there was like always music stuff happening. And I was like sort of interested in like musicals and stuff as a kid. And I just gravitated towards like kind of 90s punk stuff because I thought it was just really fun and melodic and like exciting. So all of my like kind of earliest sort of memories of discovering a band and I get off the radio in Australia as a 9 or 10-year-old, they were just always sort of punkish bands. Like, I tried to convince my parents to take me to see Green Day when I was 10. And I guess Australia's sort of like, there's a lot of stuff going on, and our government sort of like invests a little bit in bands. We have like a government radio station that's funded by the ABC called Triple J that sort of plays a lot of like local stuff. So I discovered Body Jar and Area 7 when I was like 10. And I guess, I eventually picked up a guitar and taught myself Blink-182 songs. And it was sort of the only thing I was like interested in, really. Like, I wasn't doing particularly like well at school or anything. And I didn't really have any idea what else I wanted to do. So starting a band just seemed like a good idea. And I wasn't sporty or anything. Like, I didn't play sports. So it was sort of the only thing I was interested in. And I was just lucky enough that I found people who wanted to do it, like our first drummer and eventually Dan Cribb, who went to like a nearby school, and the three of us started a band. And over the years, I've been really lucky that I've met other people and been able to keep it going and had such cool opportunities with The Decline.
Yeah, and I mean, you bring up that musical background of growing up, mother guitarist, you playing piano. Many of us in this world, we were all started on piano or forced to take piano lessons, and now that we're older, wish we kept it up because, those are the regrets you find you have in life. And you mentioned musicals. I mean, when you were a child, I mean, what was that the first thing you gravitated towards when it came to music? Was that, or was there something that just stood out to you besides that?
So like, I guess it was stuff like Disney songs and that. Um, before musicals, like songs from Aladdin and the Lion King and that,
Mm-hmm.
um, or just any kind of movie that had songs as part of the story. I didn't really like get into like Grease or like Rocky Horror or anything until I was a teenager, I guess. But um, yeah, and also just like I got really obsessive about just checking out lots of stuff. Like I would get up early on like Saturday morning and watch this program called Rage, which was just like the top 50 countdown of like singles in Australia for that week. So like I liked a lot of different stuff back then as well as punk rock. Like I really liked boy bands like NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys. Um, don't listen to anything like that anymore. Like I kind of got over that, but I was sort of interested in just like melodic stuff. Um, and then it was really like discovering punk bands that sort of had like an explosion of lots of new stuff to listen to.
Yeah, and I listen. You may say it, but I'm sure if an NSYNC or Backstreet Boys song comes on at a bar, you start to sing it, right?
Yeah, like definitely. Well, I think I did an acoustic show like a few years ago, and so I like put on Facebook like, "Oi, what should I play?" And somebody said, "Play an NSYNC song," and I did it. So I obviously
See, so you're never really over it, Pat. You're never
yeah,
really over it.
yeah. There's parts of our past that we just can't deny.
And it's, hey, listen, as you get older, you can just tell people to fuck off about certain things and be like, yeah, no, I listened to that song and I just sang it, so
Yeah,
get over it.
yeah. I guess though, like the thing about punk rock is it was accessible in the sense that like you didn't have to be like a professional musician to figure out how to play the songs. And I guess something just clicked. Like like listening to Green Day and knowing a few chords. Your brain starts to go, oh, I know what he's doing. I know like what he's playing, or at least how to sort of do that sort of thing. Whereas like I don't know, if you listen to a lot of pop music, it's all I guess, particularly those really famous bands, it's a bit artificial. So I remember thinking like when I reflect back, for like a child's mind, you can't listen to that and figure out like how any of it's put together or how any of it could work or how you could do it yourself.
Yeah, because there's 34 on that pop stuff. There's usually 34 musicians, 4 producers putting an arrangement together, and punk rock. And that was the thing. And you mentioned 2 bands, it's Green Day and Blink 182. And as I look back at my life, that was the gateway to new good punk rock music. I was lucky enough to grow up in the 90s with great punk rock music of the Fat Record types, of growing up with the Strung Out and No Use for a Name, and hearing that melodic punk rock. But when Green Day and Blink came up and they just made it accessible to everyone, as opposed to just a certain few people that were enjoyed that music, it started to sprout. It was the roots of the tree that now everywhere out there you get these pop punk bands who are uber talented. And it all started because they saw 3 dudes in a band that made things simple but made it fun and accessible for everybody.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think I needed that bridge, I guess, to appreciate bands like Rancid like a bit when I was a bit older. I think if I'd just heard Tim Armstrong singing,
you might have been put off. Yeah,
I just probably wouldn't have got it. But I think that it's like little steps.
Now, growing up in a musical family, was that like did you have like your family time for music together, or was there, was it a church thing, or was there a time that you just spent together listening to music or spending time with music?
Yeah, yes to all of them. So I guess it was a church thing. Like my mum has her choir at church and she still plays the guitar for that. And we were like encouraged to do that sort of stuff through the school. We didn't like really jam out at home much, but like my mum was the sort of person who I could ask like questions to about what is stuff if I was interested in knowing how to sort of do it. Like, because I knew piano, like I was like, "Oh, Mum, how do I play a C on the guitar?" And she was like, "Oh, it's like this." And then I was able to go and like sort of figure out where the other notes were from that. And um, yeah, so that sort of thing.
So when was the first time you got to see live music that I'd say wasn't in a church, like you went to a concert? Was it something that you got to pick, or were you dragged by your mom to some concert that she wanted to see but wanted you there with her?
Oh yeah, so that was the other part of that question, was there music on at home? The other question. My dad is into stuff like Simon and Garfunkel and the Beatles, and Beck. So there was like that sort of stuff playing. My mum's not really into any like rock music. She's more into classical stuff. And I think that we went to like quite a few classical concerts with my mum when we were like pretty young. But the first time I saw anyone where it was something I already knew was I saw the band Human Nature playing for free in the middle of the city, like an outdoor concert when I was about 10. And wow. I think we might have gone to that because I'd been trying to convince them to take me to Green Day. And we decided
so the runner-up was Human Nature for free.
This was an easy option. Then I reckon like I would have just gone to like a few things that happened to be on that were like local bands where I had no idea. And then I got tickets to the Living End when I was about 14. So I think really like my first proper like rock music gig with a lot of people would have been the Living End.
Now, seeing that and seeing people do that, was that the moment that clicked for you, or did it take a little while before you're like, I think I can do this?
I think by that point I'd sort of learned guitar, and I was like actively trying to find people to play with. But so maybe I actually would have seen a couple of like small concerts before that year. It took a little while to sort of get it together and find members from that point. But I guess you don't go watch Living End and think I can do that, because Chris Chambers is technical as fuck. Yeah. And there's like a lot going on in that band. But I think at that point I'd sort of figured like, if we can, like, I sort of understand how the song works enough that maybe we could make a song. But it probably took another year and a half from that point to actually write a song. I think around that time I was sort of thinking like, I could find some people and we could get together and play some Green Day songs or something like that.
Now, when you found those people to play with, and you started something, what was the name of that first band that you formed in life?
I think we really struggled to find a name. I think at the time we were very worried about being criticized, because I think, you're a teenager, you try and start a band, everyone around you, like of your peers, is tells you that you're going to suck. So we were very worried about potentially being made fun of or making our social lives harder for us than they already were. I can't remember any early names because we never were able to stick with anything. But when we played at a party, the first time we played in front of anyone, I think that I said that the name should be Indecent Exposure, which I thought was really funny. And then we played at school, and everyone else who was involved said like, we can't go with this Indecent Exposure thing. And whoever, like the older kid who was organising like the bands playing at school, said that he was just going to bill us as Lewis, which is actually kind of cool.
Yeah, that's not terrible.
So we were Lewis for a bit, and then I think that we didn't have any name again after that. And eventually one of my friends said, call it The Decline. And then we did.
Yeah.
And it was very different back then, though. I think back we were probably still only playing covers. But it was a sort of name that was like good enough that we were like, all right, we'll use it. And then after a while, it seemed silly to change it. We were just, okay, well, that's just the name, I guess.
Yeah, especially once, people start to see you and know to look out for it. I mean, and you mentioned the first time you ever played proper in front of people. you have to have some recollection of that moment and either what happened or how you felt. I mean, do you remember either of those?
Yeah. I remember. Well, I remember I felt very, very sick, very nervously sick, and we started playing, and I was just like, oh, I'm going to vomit. Okay, cool. And I just had like I was like, oh, I just had this moment of I have no idea what I'm going to do because I feel so nervous. I'm going to vomit, but we're definitely going to play 30 minutes of music, so there's no stopping. And I didn't freeze. I kept playing, but I was just like, whatever happens, happens. And then I just, felt better within the first 5 minutes and was able to do it, and it was cool.
And I mean, can you explain the little bit of scene that coming up as a band, especially in Australia, which other people around the world may not know? I mean, Australia's huge, but it's small pockets of population, and how that scene came together and how it rose. Because I try to tell people all the time, there is such an influential and amazing bands coming out of Australia that it's mind blowing to me, because it is just little pockets of area of population. So how did you find the scene in the area that you were in?
Well, okay, so I guess like there was really not a lot going on where I was from. Like I was from sort of like this area near the beach in Perth. But I suppose that like punk had been big in the 90s, and there was still quite a big culture of like people go to music festivals in Australia. There was a lot of good festivals on back then, and a lot of like Australian bands touring a lot. So somehow the music trickled down, and I guess there was like a couple of kids at school who were like, "Hey, check out Pennywise," or "Have you heard No Effects?" Like Pat likes Green Day, maybe we'll suggest Millencolin to him. So I had mates from school who were into music, and once there was like maybe 10 of us who were checking things out, we would all just like pass stuff to each other, like, hey, listen to this. I discovered this band called No Use for a Name because I read in the Lagwagon CD that they thanked them, and that sort of thing. And we all liked Frenzal Rom, so were very excited at the possibility that we knew Frenzal would come and play Perth eventually, and we'd be able to see them. But we didn't really know of any local stuff. And the first time we got a gig, it was because like there was somebody from school having a party, and she said like, "Oh, I'm going to have this party. There's going to be a band playing." And I said, what band? And she was like, "Oh, I don't know. I was just going to find a band." And I was like, "Well, maybe we could play." And then she was like, "All right, well, my stepdad's got a PA. If you guys bring everything else, like, then you could do a gig." And I was like, right. So now there's like an opportunity to do something and a target, and we can maybe make this happen. So like the guys I was playing with at the time, we were like, all right, well, let's pick a bunch of songs. And I think we picked 10 Green Day songs and like about 6 Millencolin songs, and then one song by No Effects and one by Anti-Flag, and probably 5 by Blink. We played like 21 songs maybe, and they were probably all really bad. We probably could have got away with doing about 8, and people would have been as interested as they were. And like, I think it became my only focus. Like I'd come home from school every day and play guitar for like 2 hours, and we would probably practice every week at our old drummer's house. And then we did it and didn't go terribly. People were like, "Yeah, it was cool. You're a band." And then quite quickly after that, we played at school. And then it just went back to like, we don't have any gigs. We'll try and do something again at some point. And then I think the person playing bass lost interest, but I went to see the Living End again, and I saw Dan Cribb there, who was a guy I knew from another school who liked music as well. So we would sometimes like go to concerts together. And he just said, "Well, if I buy a bass, could maybe I be in the band?" And I said, "Yeah, definitely." So then we had Dan, who was like as keen as me to do stuff, and we were like really motivated. And I think that we just sort of, whenever there was like a party where a band could potentially play, we would put our hands up. And we got to play a few more parties and then a few Battle of the Band competitions locally. And I think No Use for a Name came to Australia, and I didn't go because I think I don't know. I was too anxious to go to gigs, or I didn't know enough about them yet. But our old drummer went and he saw a band called Varial supporting. So then which is Ray from the Decline's first
Mm-hmm.
band. So then we knew a local band who we thought was awesome. So then the few of us who were super keen on doing music or doing the band we would go check out Varial every time they played at the local skate park. And eventually through that, we met a few more bands and we met some local promoters. And then one day, one of the local promoters said, maybe you guys could play at a pub. So within about 6 months, the Decline were playing at pubs. And then that's the point where we really figured out there was a scene in Perth of other bands, and bands doing punk stuff, or bands doing sort of like that 90s alternative rock thing that was really popular in Australia. And from that point, I guess we were a part of that. And we also got to do cool stuff like go to watch Frenzel Rom, and we slowly built up to getting the play with them, which was a total fluke. I guess that was a question about the local scene, but I just made it like a small history of starting a band.
Hey, listen, I'll take it.
The scene is good.
No, I'll take it. And I mean, in a short period of time, though, I mean, from the formation to putting out, The Same Kind, your first EP in 2008, and then coming to do your first full-length album, I mean, you came to the States to record that at the Blasting Room, right?
Yeah, we did, which is a crazy thing that only 4 18-year-olds could think was a sensible idea, and it turned out to be the coolest thing we ever did, or like the best business move we ever did, probably. I guess once we were 18, we'd all finished school and we were able to like really prioritize the band, and by that point, the people who were involved were all really serious about it. Like, I guess some of our friends who we'd used to go to gigs with or played with when we were younger had sort of like lost interest somewhat, or at least weren't going to make it their whole fucking life like I was trying to do. And yeah, we recorded The Same Kind, and our manager at the time, who was a friend who used to put on gigs, he said, everyone's starting to get their stuff mastered overseas. You guys love The Descendants. Some bands from Perth are getting their stuff mastered by Bill. Why don't you just fucking go there? And there wasn't even a question about whether that was a good idea. The 4 of us just said, yeah, okay, we'll try that. and without realizing what a big thing we were committing to, or having any understanding whatsoever about whether that whether we were good enough, or whether we could play well enough. And I think we didn't have that thing that you have when you're a bit older, where you're able to practice something and recognize what you're doing wrong and then fix it. We just practiced like relentlessly, but we never really thought about whether we were doing the songs, like whether the songs could be any better, or whether we could change anything about them. The songs just were as they were. And when we got to Blasting Room, Bill was like, how about you make them heaps different?
Yeah.
And maybe you could try playing like this. And I guess we had the advantage of being taught, like, you're doing everything wrong, here's how to do it. No, not exactly. But just the value of, like, being told, like, you need to be a lot better. I'm making it sound like we really sucked.
You're basically telling me how shitty you were until you got to the Blasting Room. So
yeah, well, I guess like it was just, we thought we were playing at like an okay local standard, I guess, and then we got there and we realized we were at a studio where actual professional bands play, and we needed to step up a bit. And as a result, like, we ended up with a record that I guess sounded pretty good and people were keen to hear.
Yeah, and I mean, you gloss over the fact of, again, just 18-year-olds from Australia flying across the world to go record your first full-length album. And I mean, that in and of itself takes enough balls, to last a lifetime to do something like that. I mean, how did your your family feel about you just being like, okay, yeah, no, we're going to the States to record an album? Was there any pushback, or did you have any people behind you saying, I don't think it's a good idea to go?
My parents are so supportive of music. It's really, really, really cool, and it's always been like a great thing for me. I think that they could just tell when I started like trying to start a band when I was like 14 or whatever. They were like, "This is what Patrick wants to do, um, and this is something he's actually interested in." Like, so we're just going to roll with it and see where it goes. So that was always awesome. Um, so when I said, "Hey, we're going to go to America," I think their reaction was probably like, "That won't happen," but whatever. Like if it does, great. Yeah, so that they were awesome about it. We got a little bit of pushback from like other bands locally. Like we had people say to us, like, "Oh, this is a massive waste of money. Why don't you just record here?" Or this is like we got a little bit of like, "Who do you think you are?" Which I understand. Like like it probably seemed like overkill. And we also had people like telling us like they were worried about us, like like you're going to be out of your comfort zone, you're going to be jet lagged. You're probably not going to make a good record when you're doing that. Yeah, so I guess there was a little bit of that, and I suppose that was worrying because we just thought, I guess we were naive enough to think it was a no brainer, like we'll just do it, whatever. But it turned out to probably be the best thing we ever did. We obviously learned how to write songs better, and then we came back and the album got leaked on like a bunch of blog sites. So suddenly we had people from the other side of the world like buying shirts off us and stuff, and we had this like newfound interest. So we sort of used that as a platform to start touring.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it was what kind of gave us our start, I guess. And I wonder, like, if we hadn't done it, if we would have done much else after that.
Yeah, and I mean, it also had to be a little refreshing from any pushback that you might have gotten to just be able to say, well, here's the album.
Here's the album.
Now what do you say? Now what do you say?
13 really rambly, really all over the place tracks by a bunch of 18-year-olds. But it sounds real nice.
Now, once you get that taste and you go, you come to America and you're at, the famous place, and Bill Stevenson, one of the icons when it comes to punk rock music, hands down, and you get that opportunity to work with him. Was there, when you got back home, was there an immediate sense of, all right, let's just go take this place by storm, and let's just get out on the road and start touring, and here we are now, we're a real band, and we just did something real and exciting and run with it?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was like. Like that was that was the vibe we came back with. We were like, cool, we've done this thing. I think that while we were over in the States, we were like chatting to some bands in Sydney, and we decided that would be the thing. We're going to go to Sydney and play. So we got back from America, and it was a bit weird going back to like shitty dead end jobs after doing such a cool thing. But I think about 3 months or something afterwards, maybe even less, we did our first tour over East. Before I'm not going to lie to you, the record came out, and then we came home and we were like, cool, now let's put out the record. Let's do another one. So we did that, and then we did another one like immediately after that. And then the Descendants came to Australia because Bill had like had his heart attack and his brain tumor, and like they'd had this like, cool, we will be a band again. Like we almost lost Bill, so they were coming to Australia for the first time ever, and we were like, fuck yeah, we'll go watch the Descendants, and we'll do a tour. So I think within the space of, I think we did 4 Australian tours within a year after coming back from America. So it was like yeah, there was a lot of energy around how much can we push this.
Well, I mean, 4 tours in a year. And from that point, and you hit the ground running, and like you said, you started creating more albums, more music, and it just kind of hasn't stopped since. I mean, what keeps you going? Is it just the love of what you're doing, or is it because it's, this is what I know?
Um, it's interesting, hey, because sometimes a thing like a band just becomes a part of your personality and your identity, and you don't really question it. And I think that's what happened to me. Like at first, it was like, oh, I've always wanted to play music, I'll do it. But then, like once we were actually doing it, it was like, cool, this is my thing now.
All right. And
And
you,
what keeps me going is like, I guess it's always cool to be able to go and catch up with your friends who you've met through being in a band and go visit their wherever they live and play a show together and um, yeah, and also the feeling of doing new stuff you've never gotten to do before as well.
yeah, and I mean, we went through in the world a really tough time, especially when it came to music, where no one could tour or play or do anything. And you spent some of that time, re-releasing stuff and coming up with new stuff. I mean, was that? I mean, how was it during that time for a musician yourself? In the downtime where there wasn't a lot going on. I mean, how did you keep yourself busy? Was it just focusing on doing more stuff with the decline, or did you have that moment of like, okay, what's going to happen next?
It was so weird, hey. Like we we had a really busy time when we were touring the album Resistor, and we really like didn't stop for about 3 years, and it was quite exhausting. Um, and we went straight from that into recording Flash Gordon Ramsay Street. So we didn't tour at all really for about a year when we were trying to get Flash Gordon Ramsay Street like written and recorded. Uh, and then we had like a bit of like a label sort of hiccup, and and so it took a while to get the record out. So we were like, we had more downtime than we expected, and we were like, right, we're ready to do stuff. So we toured Flash Gordon Ramsay Street a bunch in Australia, and we were like just getting ready to go overseas, and the pandemic happened, and it was really weird because like we were like ready to go and we were excited, but there was like so much uncertainty. We didn't know what to do. And also like because we hadn't been overseas for a few years anyway, because we had been obsessing over like getting a record out, it sort of it was long enough where I sort of felt like, oh, what's it going to be like over there now? And can we still do it anyway? Like, how's it going to work? And then the pandemic happened, so it was like it sort of it was like an option for us. So for such a short period of time, like I was like, right, we're back. Oh no, here we go. No, we don't. Like, so then we were just sitting at home, like, is the world going to end? Um, and then obviously Perth had an easy time in the pandemic because they locked our borders like straight away. So like we couldn't leave the state, people couldn't get in, but there was almost no COVID here for like the first year. So, but we still had like a major lockdown for about 6 months. But then once that passed, they were like, okay, you can play gigs. So we were like, we can only play in our state. Maybe we'll play. So we like did like sort of like some album showcase gigs, like 5 years of Resistor, 10 years of I'm Not Going to Lie to You, that sort of thing. And that was cool. And then afterwards we were like, fuck, what else do we do? Maybe we should record some songs. And we didn't want to like write a full album because Flash Gordon Ramsay Street had been out for like a year and it felt like we'd done nothing with it. Like we'd toured Australia twice for it, which was great. But we were like, it still feels like a new record. Can't make another one. So we just sort of like went through like the backlog of songs that like I guess I had written while sitting at home during COVID, and we were like, oh, this Kenneth one's pretty funny. That's a bit different. Maybe that's the sort of song that like we wouldn't put on an album anyway because it's a bit weird. Let's record that. And it just sort of went from there. And then other things came up, like Pete P from P Records asked us to record a cover, so we did a Beatles song. So it sort of feels like we've been in and out of the studio kind of constantly for almost all of COVID. We've got maybe four songs to show for
it. Yeah, and I mean, to go back to stuff like you had an album out for a while, but it felt like you didn't do anything with it. It's really. I look at bands too that were ready to release an album and basically sat on it for 2 years before they released it. And it's always interesting hearing different versions from different people around the world of what their experience was like, especially when that happened and they had an album out, but they didn't really feel like they did anything with it. And trying to pick up and start again has to be really hard. I mean, I've watched a lot of bands because of what happened, and they were on this trajectory going straight up, and pandemic happened, and all these tours that they were supposed to be on, and then it just haven't heard from them. It's so depressing. But to see you still going and being able to have that opportunity to play when everything was still closed, but in your own state, that's awesome to have something that keeps you going like that.
Yeah, we were lucky. It's weird, hey. I used to always think if we stop, people will forget about us. We have to just always be doing stuff, keep going, keep playing as much as possible. And yeah, I suppose like COVID and us having we had like a bit of a mini pandemic for ourselves, like where we stopped touring for like 2 years while we were trying to get Flash Gordon Ramsay Street out. So we've sort of had like 2 big breaks. People like care about us as much as they did before, like if not more. Like it somehow managed to just feel like we've had some growth anyway, and our fans are there regardless of whether we're like relentlessly playing or we're doing our own thing, which is really nice because I guess I'm like a fairly like busy person. Like I like to always be doing shit. Like I'm pretty hyperactive, and it's nice to know I don't have to be like that. Yeah, for the decline to like, have its place in people's minds and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you said, I mean, I love that you followed it up because you had said if you're not continuously doing stuff, you're worried about being forgotten. So I guess at the same time, that kind of got you over that you don't have to create something just because you don't want to be forgotten.
Yeah, exactly. I also I went through a period of feeling like, oh, maybe we can be more than just a skate punk band. Like maybe we can create something new. We can do something really experimental and weird. And I think that like the like kind of ongoing support from our fans has made me realize like, you know what, we are what we are, and people love us for it. I don't need to fucking reinvent the wheel and try and do something ridiculous musically. Like, like just be.
But is there something pulling you?
I guess feeling
that
like
way?
appreciated and happy with what we have is another thing that the pandemic kind of like that I experienced in the pandemic.
But is there something pulling you to maybe create something different? Because this is the thing that when I talk to artists, I like to express to them that, no matter what you do moving forward, because we all get older, we all adapt, things change in your life, experiences change. A lot of where your music comes from is from experiences, and it's okay to change because your fans are still going to always have the opportunity to listen to what they loved you for, but you could change something and you could just broaden your horizons. Like, do you feel anything pulling yourself to maybe do something a little different, or is it just, steady she goes?
For a little while, I guess I was just listening to lots of stuff like AFI and Pears and My Chemical Romance, and I wanted to do something a bit darker and maybe like a bit more kind of chaotic with like when I was listening to a lot of Pears, the band.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has come through on a few songs off Flash, but it got to a point where I felt like, you're forcing this, just like write what you're comfortable with. And the rest of the songs sort of took a much more like melodic skate punk route, and I just decided not to force it. But at the same time, I have a few other creative outlets. Like I've always had a ska band that just sort of does a little bit of stuff here and there locally. I've got like a solo project as well, and now I'm playing in this band called No Escape, which is sort of like a theater punk rock sort of. I guess project is the right word, but yeah, it's like a bit of like a story to the. It's quite concepty. So I've got I've got other outlets as well for it. Yeah, I don't feel my main, like, I guess, vision is I want to just keep creating interesting skate punk and, yeah, keep pushing the melody.
All right. Now, this is going to be, well, what I feel is usually a really hard song for an artist to self-reflect. But if you had to play someone that never heard your music before, you had to play them one of your songs to get them to fall in love with you. Do you know what song you would play for them?
No, that is hard. Um, yeah, that's a really hard one. Trying to think, because we have like quite a variety of stuff. I think the one that like shows what the band is the most is probably the song Verge Collection, because I think that's a really chorusy song with it's also fast and melodic, but it's got a little, like, probably just enough like chaotic, interesting stuff happening as well. Like, I think that's a good all rounder. If I want somebody to like understand the main direction of the band, probably Verge Collection. But if I wanted them to like really fall in love with us, like, I would probably go for a song that's got like a bit more of like a personal or sort of like emotional sort of vibe to it. Maybe something like Josh or Can't Have Both.
All right.
You
Now,
wanted one answer and I gave you three. Sorry.
no, that's listen. I because I love it because it gives me an opportunity to say, hey, this is what the artist would play for you, and this might be something that I would play for you. That's a little different.
Yeah,
But
cool.
now,
If you were showing someone us, what song would you pick?
so I have a few. I mean, I was going through when I went through the entire discography and finding everything. I mean, I'll pull it up here again because I bookmark them, as I do because there's so much music that I go through. Let me just pull this up again. Now, while I'm looking for this, do you have a favorite song that you've created that just means more to you than other things that you've created? Do you have one of those?
Yeah, I think so. I think a crash course in emotional English off our record, "Are You Going to Eat That?" Is always one, like, probably my personal favorite because I felt like it was such a jump songwriting wise for me when I was able to write that.
That's awesome. Now, do you have a band in your life that you constantly connect to that is, I mean, the way I'll look at it is sometimes is, a band that never lets you down, someone you can always turn to, good or bad, that you can just always lean on to listen to?
I have a few of those. Probably The Descendants, though, is the main one.
The Descendants. All right. Now, were you an All fan?
Yeah, I'm a massive All fan as well.
What's your favorite All album?
Oh, it's so hard. I'm going to give you two answers. Probably Mass Nerder if I'm wanting like a consistent start to finish, every song's a banger, like standard. But maybe like personal like one is Percolator.
Yeah,
There's
that's
like
awesome.
a couple of songs on Percolator where I think like, oh, this is where they really like nailed it songwriting wise. Like, obviously Dot or Minute, Wonder, Nothing. Those are probably like my favorite All songs. But some of Percolator's like, a bit more left field, whereas like Mass Nerder is like consistently bangers the whole way through.
Yeah. All right. So here's mine for you that one of them is maybe a little off the wall, but because I'm glad you gave me three because I would probably play like here's three songs because I'm one of those people you got to hear. I'm also one of those people like you got to give me five songs. Like I always say, anyone can write one good song, but I got to have five for me to stay entertaining, contained. I mean, so my first one, Year of the Crow, and then my second one is Your Funeral. And I don't know why it is. It's a little different than all the others, but it was just, I guess, when I heard it and listened to it, it brought me somewhere.
Yeah.
That maybe I wasn't expecting. And then Wrecking Ball was another one that I'm just like, yeah, that's here you go. Go have fun with this.
Yeah, cool. Awesome.
Yeah. But now that I have you,
I like those three as well.
Well, I should hope so.
um, Year of the Crow is a really cool song because I wrote half of it on a bus in Thailand without a guitar. I think I had the first verse already written like on the guitar, and I didn't know if I'd do anything with it. And then I was like, I think we had like a long flight and then a stopover on the way back from Europe, and I had like we were sitting on this like kind of shuttle bus for like an hour or something, and I don't know what I was thinking about, but I wrote the chorus and that sort of the second verse that's like different chords, and it's sort of its own thing. It doesn't repeat. Like I wrote that just lyrically, and then later I had like I knew what I was going to play on guitar, and it just happened like in my brain, which sometimes happens, which is really really cool. Yeah, and Wrecking Ball also I wrote that in Brisbane on tour in my friend's basement, but I think I already had some of the riffs and some of the melodies from like old songs I'd written and done nothing with it, and I just thought, oh, if I do this and I write a new bit, it'll be a full song. And it just happened like it's like it had been waiting to be written for like 2 years.
Wow, I love that you remember where you were when you wrote it. I mean, because it's not like you only have one album out, so it's 12 songs to go back to remember where you were when you did it. It's kind of an extensive thing, and that's awesome that you can give a backstory to a single song out of your entire catalog to pull from.
I love talking about songwriting. It's like my favorite thing because it's like you can be like an amazing guitarist or singer, and those are things that I wish I was. But I think songwriting just like I don't know if there's any talent to it. Like songs just happen to you.
No, it's all talent. I mean,
yeah, but for talent and creativity are like different areas of music, and you could be like an amazing guitarist and sit there all day like playing perfectly, but you might not come up with anything good. Like songs just happen. It's like so weird.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to have some sort of ability, which ability usually equates to talent to put things together.
Talent is the vessel.
Yeah, and I mean, because without it, if there wasn't any of that, I mean, a lot of the songs like I've heard talentless songwriting and performers, and you can tell, and your stuff isn't that way. You're creative, and that's part of your talent to be able to put it together. I mean, I think that's a huge thing, And I don't want to change your mind on how you feel about, but this is my disgusting, opinionated New York, New Jersey attitude that I have. That I think it takes a lot, and I don't think anybody can just do it. I don't. And again, like there are great songwriters who sit back and all they do is sit back and write a song, and sometimes never perform it because maybe they don't have the talent to do so. But the talent in and of itself is writing that song.
Yeah, I guess they are linked in that sense. Yeah.
Now, when it comes to your songwriting, and is it one of those things like you gave a nice little background of just in Thailand sitting on a bus coming up with something? Is there a lot of effort that you put into it? When I say effort, I mean, is it something that you consciously have to take the time to do, or is it just you wake up in the middle of the night and you heard something in a dream and you're like, okay, I got to get this down because I think that'll be great?
I don't know if I've ever had the dream thing happen, but I like hear songs in dreams, but usually they're songs I already know. Like I remember vividly a dream I had where like Alkaline Trio's music was playing in it all the time. My brain is always in that is always in song mode, and it's usually just like I'll be out and about, going to work, doing just living, and in the background it's ticking over on ideas. And like the wrecking ball method is one I use a lot, where I'll pick up a guitar and I'll like play and I'll sing something, and then I'll think, maybe I'll do something with that one day, and it just goes back into the background where the song sort of like is being worked on subconsciously. um, or I'll like just be I'm like always thinking about stuff, like analyzing things that happen uh, in my hyperactive brain, and I will like I'll think of a lyric I like or a concept I like, and I'll think, oh, that's cool, and then it'll come up again, like when I think of a different idea, and it'll like build in the background, and then there'll probably be like a second time where I pick up the guitar and like fuck around with it a bit more, and I'll probably have like a verse and a chorus, and then I'll be like, cool, so that'll be a Decline song one day if I can finish it. And like, then I'll think, okay, cool, maybe at some point I'll make a demo of this. And then usually like by the time I have like a verse or two and a chorus, the idea is pretty fully formed, and I just have to write the song. And then that's when I think, okay, it'd be good if I can sit down on a day off soon and finish this properly. And sometimes the Wrecking Ball thing happens where the ideas are pulled from several different of those songs and come together really nicely, but sometimes it's just its own thing.
Yeah, and so there are times that, is there something that you worked on for a long time, a song that you just had different ambitions for it to be finished and just were never satisfied, and just had something just be like, this wasn't my vision, but at the time it was? Did you have anything like that? Because I'm sure it happens more, maybe
definitely.
more often than not, but
yeah, there's a few like that. There's ones that that I thought were like full songs that I just wrote, and then we never learnt them as a band, and then it ended up like just sort of, by the time it was time to do new ones, that they were so long ago that I decided I probably won't revisit that idea, even though it was totally finished. Or there's ones where I had like verse, chorus, and I thought it was great, but I could never figure out a way to play it as a punk rock song, or I could never figure out the rest of it. And there's ones where like there's two that we recorded half of them, and they're sitting on a hard drive somewhere, and I don't know if we'll ever finish them. Yeah, and I've got one now that's like a weird acoustic song, and I think it's too much like You Call This a Holiday. So I'm like, how do I have to keep revisiting the idea and thinking, how can I make it a bit different without just without changing it too much that the idea is no longer good, versus keeping it the same and worrying it's too much like You Call This a Holiday.
Wow.
Yeah. And also Your Funeral, there's a full band version of it that I wrote, and our producer was like, nah, it's an acoustic song, and everyone in the band was like, that's a great idea, and I just sort of had to be like, okay, I trust you all. So yeah, there's so many ideas out there. I think that can be said for all songwriters, but there's a lot of kind of unfinished ideas, or like Car Without an Engine or something like out just in the background.
Well, as a songwriter and performer, I mean, you said, everyone telling you to do something one way, and you say you trust them. I mean, how, as someone who is constantly writing songs, are you fully okay when someone says, no, this is the way it needs to be? Or do you just have to, because you may have created something in your mind and then it works out a little different. Are you okay with that a lot of the times? Or is there pushback from your own psyche saying like, no, I truly believe in this is the way something's supposed to go?
It's a bit of both. Yeah. It's a thing where like Ben and I are the main writers. I write a little bit more than Ben. So I sometimes feel like bands with one person's vision aren't always good. I think that like obviously I'm pretty creative, and I like to be creative. I put a lot of emphasis on writing, but I try not to like be so attached to it that I think I'm the only person with good ideas, because I reckon that's like that's how like creativity dies. Like my favorite band's The Descendants. All four of them write songs, and that's why the records are great. I think that you have to listen to the team. That's why you're a band, and that's how you really make it good. Obviously, there is the opposite thing, like too many cooks, like that can be
Yeah.
bad, and sometimes it feels like we're changing the song just to make everyone feel like they're involved. Like that can be a bit shit. But when everyone's like, nah, acoustic song seems like it would be a way better vibe for your funeral, this song. I think you got to listen to the group in that sense, like because they're able to look at it in a way you haven't. Like you're attached to this song that you wrote for 6 months and you wrote riffs for, and you think it's great, but they're hearing it for the first time, so they don't have that like obsessive thing that you've got with it. Yeah, I guess so. I do sometimes feel like I don't want to change it. Like I'm unwilling to change certain parts of it, but also like it's usually for the benefit of the song to let other ears be a part of it.
Good for you, man. Now, all right. Do you have a moment in your life that is attached to music for good or bad that just always stands out to you? Like your biggest musical moment, maybe it was personally playing or personally watching something, or something happened in your life attached to music. Is there a moment in your life that is just a musical memory that just will forever stand out?
I think there probably would be heaps. I'm trying to think of if there was a particularly significant one. Yeah, I don't know, good or bad. I'm like looking up at my CD collection, trying to like trigger memories by. Oh, okay. So like obviously, like an awesome one is when like the crowd is singing one of your songs and you're able to stop and not sing, and they sing it. That's the coolest feeling in the world.
Yeah, that's pretty special.
So we've had like a couple of times where like where that's happened at some of our gigs. Like we knew that a lot of people who knew the songs were coming and it was going to be a good night, but we didn't think it was going to be like that much of a vibe. And when we supported the Wilhelm Scream in Sydney, it was probably the second or third tour we did when we had just released Resistor. We were playing the song Start Again, and there's like a kind of soft bit with a clean guitar at the end where I sing kind of quietly. And I was about to start singing it, but everyone else did, and I was like, it sort of like shocked me a little bit. Like, so I didn't start singing, and then I realized, I don't have to. They're all doing it, and the few times like we've been able to do that at like kind of big festivals we've done, or kind of like bigger club shows, or when we were on supports, it's such a cool feeling. Yeah, then that's like cemented in my memory as like one of the funnest things that's happened to us. And like when I don't listen to our records heaps unless I'm like doing it for like reflective reasons, like, hey, what did I think were good ideas back then, or how has my like ears changed since we produced it this way, or if I have to relearn parts that I've forgotten. But like if I ever do chuck on Start Again, whenever it gets to that bit, I'm able to go back to that moment.
Awesome. Here's something. Is there something that you listen to that people would be really surprised that someone who is in a skate punk band would get tons of enjoyment out of listening to it? Like, do you still listen to like maybe new boy bands or something that you?
Oh, that sort of thing. Yeah, I like some like bands I like that are a bit like not punk. Like the comedian Tim Minchin, I listen to him a lot. I don't know if you know him. He's an Australian musical comedian. Or the Whitlams, which is sort of like a lounge jazz band from Sydney, or Paul Kelly's like an Australian folk singer. I listen to all of them heaps. I got pretty into 21 Pilots for a bit. I guess the big one that is like it would be a surprise. I don't listen to it heaps anymore, but when I was about 20, I listened to lots of like Aqua and the Venga Boys. But that was sort of because I was convinced you could make those songs ska songs and that they would be good. So I had like a band, and we used to do covers of the Venga Boys and Aqua and like 90s like Euro dance or 90s pop. So I think a lot of it was like nostalgia based, but like for a while I would like listen to that stuff and like figure out arrangements for how you could play them as a ska band. Like the song Boom 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 by the Venga Boys is like a perfect example because the verse leans itself really easily to like upstrokes and a walking bass line, and you can play that synth riff on horns that like so I think that would surprise people.
So are you going to cover that as a ska version or what? I mean, because it sounds like you've been working on it.
Yeah. So we had a band. This is like probably 10 years ago. We had this band, and we did these full sets of like those sorts of songs. Yeah. So there's probably like videos of us playing like local shows in Perth, doing Venga Boys and Aqua and stuff. Yeah. So they're out there somewhere.
All right. Well, now I'm going to be on a search.
Yeah, I'll try and find some of it for you if you want. I'll send you the like electric version of Your Funeral. It's a pretty like shitty thing I just did on my laptop, but you'll be able to hear like where the idea came from.
I'd love to hear it. All right, here you go. Big one here. Asteroids crashing into the Earth. You got 5 minutes left to live, and you have to listen to one song before it ends. What do you listen to?
Okay, so like probably Linoleum.
Wow. Okay.
I have this joke that like I'm really basic, and the only thing I listen to is NoFX. Like I like to sometimes lean into being a bit of a cliche because I think it's funny. So like the Wi-Fi password at my house is I love NoFX. So if we ever have bad day here, it's like I'm making fun of myself by like, or the Wi-Fi password is I love NoFX. And they're like, fuck, of course it is. And my wife, her friend, her best friend, at some point, like a couple of years ago, had to have like a sort of surprise surgery, and the surgeon was like, "What do you want to listen to while we're putting you under anesthetic?" And she said, "Fleetwood Mac." And my wife said, "What would you listen to?" Without really missing a beat, I was like, "Definitely fucking Punk and Drublick." Like, who do you think I am? So I've always thought about, like. Probably, I would actually listen to Punk in Drublick, and I'd probably be unconscious by the time Leave It Alone starts or something. So maybe the last song's Linoleum. I'm pretty. I guess in other cases, like I'm a bit like ritualistic. Like whenever I was about to do a big thing, or I had like when I finished school, I got in my car and listened to Frenzal Rom, and I think I listened to the same Frenzal song on the way to all the last exams and stuff. So Frenzal's another big one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I listen, NoFX when it comes to it. I mean, I was going to my senior quote in our yearbooks here got cut out because it was dirty because it was a NoFX line in a song. So listen, I'm right there with you.
That's so funny. My friend, for his senior end of school like yearbook thing with his photo, he put a quote about how he wanted to grow up and be like Josh Freese or something to do with Josh Freese, and the school spelt it wrong, so it said Josh Freezer. This is like immortalizing a mistake. It totally
forever.
Changed.
Yeah, it's forever there.
The context of what he was trying to say.
There's no going back to being able to repost something on the internet, but when it's in that text in a book, yeah, like they put my superlative was completely different than what I had written. I'm like, I don't know where they found that, but okay, whatever. But yeah, that's it. So if anybody ever wants to remember me, if anybody wants to remember me and look back and be like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, because I don't even know.
What song was it from that you were? You don't have to tell me on the air.
Well, no, I mean, I'll give you the line. I may not go down in history, but I'll sure go down. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so you can understand why it got cut, but that was going to be underneath my picture.
That's hell funny.
Yeah.
And what did they put instead?
It was to be the keeper of the cheese. Whatever. I don't know.
Oh, okay. So they just chose something.
Yeah, from somewhere else that I wrote something and just picked something and threw it underneath there. So when I got the book, I was like, I don't even want to fucking pay for this now. But
God, I'm glad they didn't ask us for any quotes.
Yeah, everybody had to have something underneath there. And I was just like, I wrote that. I was like, here's my quote. And my buddy, when I was doing it, he's like, you're seriously writing that? I'm like, yeah, it's fucking NoFX, dude. Like, whatever. It'll get passed. There's like 800 kids in our school. They'll never fucking know. And sure enough, they found it because they
Wow.
probably expected it from me too. So
Yeah, that's classic.
yeah. But listen, I know what time it is there. I know what time it is here. I've kept you a while here. I know you got things to do today since your day is just starting over there,
No,
and
it's
mine
all
is
good.
coming to an end. Before we go into our last segment, where you guys first appeared on this show, I'd love to give you an opportunity now to tell people, our fans, your fans, how to find everything it is that you're doing, and what you got coming up, and just have this opportunity to do that, and all your cool handles around the world on your media sites.
Cool. All right. So you can find The Decline on like all the streaming services, on Spotify, on Apple Music, all of that. I'm Pat Decline on everything, on Instagram, on Facebook, and the same deal with like all the streaming services. My solo stuff's up there under Pat Decline. We have my ska band is called House Arrest, and that's only on Bandcamp. Actually, it might just be on the Pat Decline Bandcamp now. I can't remember what we did with it, but if you want to find some ska music, just contact Pat Decline on Facebook or Instagram, and I'll be able to hook you up with the very minimal amount of ska recordings we've got out there. But I think the songs are really cool. My new band that I'm a part of is my friend Noah's band. It's called No Escape. So Noah, like the name, Noah, and Scape, Skape. And that's on all the streaming services and all social media as well. And that's a project I'm really, really excited about. And I'm really happy Noah's having me in it because I think the songs are fucking rocking. So that's all the musical stuff. Pretty much Pat Decline on everything. And what we've got coming up in Decline is we've got a Halloween song coming out really soon, which we're about to announce. It's going to come out on October 31st. I'm not sure when this episode's airing, so it could already be out. And we've got just a lot of other fun singles that coming up, like we've been doing this year, just sort of a few small releases, just to keep putting stuff out there until it's time for a new record. So I really appreciate everyone listening and hanging out. And yeah, thanks for having me. Good times.
Yeah, listen, this is great. I love having the opportunity to talk to you. Love what you guys do, and I love everything you're doing. So we want to say thank you for that, because we're the listeners, and I do appreciate your hard work and excellence in creating music to give me some enjoyment. So I do thank you very much for that.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was really fun, and it was really cool to chat and talk about songs. And yeah, it was a great time.
Well, here we go into our last segment. It's our weekly threes. So you may need to look at your CDs again, or pull up your Spotify playlist or Apple Music, or however you listen to music, and let us know 3 things that you're listening to right now that you'd like people to also hear.
Well, at the moment, I have been listening to the new Flatliners record, New Ruin. I think it's fucking really cool. No Trigger's new one, Doctor Album, I thought was great. I've been listening to that heaps. I'm seeing what else? What else have I got going? The band Rebuilder. I've been listening to them a little bit. I heard them in Clerks 3, and I've seen them at Fest, but when they came on in Clerks 3, I was really stoked to hear them in that. So I've been checking out their stuff a bit more thoroughly and getting into them.
Awesome. Good 3. Well, here's my 3 for this week. My first one this week is Kayak Jones. The name of the album is You Swear It's Getting Better Every Day. They're emo pop punk. Big Nothing. The name of the album is Dog Hours. Indie rock. And then last but not least, Valley Heart. Valley Heart is a band that I absolutely love and adore, and they have a new song out called Heal My Head. It is a brilliant track, so check it out, and check out everything that Valley Heart's done too in the past.
Awesome.
But that concludes what we're doing here for this week. And Pat, again, thank you so much for what it is you do. Keep moving along, and hopefully next time you're in the States, I will have the opportunity to meet you in person, say hello, and watch you fucking kill it over here. So
yes, that sounds great. Looking forward to it.
But everybody, you know what time it is. It's time to go out, listen to the Decline, and have a great fucking time.
The takeoff and the landing are the hardest part. They're the only time when you're able to tell how fast you are going. The rest you're just aware that you exist, and all of it will be taken away with any given moment. I spent 45 minutes in Peru, and I watched the clouds engulf the skyline in the farthest place I've ever been. Spent 3 years feeling homeless. Just 3 weeks to draw the notion that I've only ever belonged right here, right beside you, at arm's reach of you. And I can't remember which time zone or city I was lost in when I told you that I loved you for the first time. Search each and every lonely corner of the earth over and over just to find you there. For what it's worth, but you were right here in the place that you had always been. And it took me long enough, you know I'd wait that long again, 'cause I spent 45 minutes in Peru, and I watched the clouds engulf the skyline in the furthest place I've ever been from you. That I've only ever belonged right here, right beside you, at arm's reach of you. And I can't remember which timeline or city I was lost in when I told you that I loved you for the first time. So let this guitar gather dust to burst around the globe, longing for something I thought I lost along the road. Let the motor roll down into days, hours into minutes. I always spent one more single moment of my life without you in it. I always spent one more single moment of my life without you in it.
Thanks again for tuning into the Hidden Tracks podcast. We hope you enjoyed this week's show. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at HiddenTracks99. Also, send all your submissions myhiddentracks99@gmail.com. Tune in next week. You may find your new favorite band, and don't forget to go out and have a great fucking time.